everyone. So for those that don't know me, my name is Kristen Bennett. I am working towards being a certified life coach, and I am looking at being a female empowerment coach in particular. I have a heck of a life story and tons of experience getting through difficult times. So I would just really like to give back to those that are still going through those difficult times. Today the topic is sitting with emotions. I don't know if you saw my previous post about there was a children's book called Going on a Bear Hunt, and it's a family that goes through a whole bunch of swishy swashy grass and thick oozy mud and a swirling whirling snowstorm. So I like to think of those as our emotions. And the whole tagline of the book is, can't go over it, you can't go over under it. Oh no, I've got to go through it. And isn't that the truth? So I'd like to start by just giving you a little quote by Viktor Frankl. He stated that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. So to me, this means whenever we act impulsively and base our responses off of emotions, typically the responses aren't always the best one. We always need to take time to think and make sure that our emotions are regulated before we are responding to a situation. So sitting with emotions, the whole point of this talk. So there's various ways that we can do this. This helps us to become more aware of the emotions, where the emotions are in our body. And it helps us to accept the emotions and move past that icky feeling that we get whenever we do have negative emotions per se. So I am going to start by saying all emotions are normal. There are no good emotions, there are no bad emotions, they are all just emotions. We do associate some with good versus bad. However, they all just are emotions. And we're going to have a wide range of emotions throughout our lifetime, everywhere from joy to sorrow. So we do need to learn how to cope with those emotions appropriately so that we can live our best life. So I am going to start by saying that we need to accept that we have a emotion. So acceptance, we're going to look at where that feels in the body, whether it's anxiety, if you feel it in your chest, anger. A lot of times people will feel it in their hands and they'll clench their fists. They'll feel it in their jaw bones. They'll grind their teeth a little bit. So depending on the emotion, you want to recognize where in your body you're feeling that. You also don't want to push that emotion away. You don't want to numb that emotion. We did talk a little bit earlier in the week about numbing and what that looks like. So we do want to avoid that as much as possible. Another common issue that a lot of people do is bottling up their emotions. They just don't accept them. They don't acknowledge them. They bottle them up. Working in a school board, we look at this like a Coke bottle effect. So if you take a bottle of Coke and you shake, eventually that Coke bottle is going to explode. The second you open it up, it's going to be an overflow of emotions per se. So we don't want to bottle it up either. The first step is to identify and label. This empowers you and allows you to detach from the emotion and look at it more rationally. So it engages your prefrontal cortex rather than your amygdala. So the amygdala is what basically runs our emotions. Oh, thanks for the like. Hey, Crystal. Yeah, we want to engage that prefrontal cortex. So a lot of times we look at this in the school system as flipping a lid. So the amygdala is where all our emotions lie, and then the prefrontal cortex comes down. And that is what covers our emotions. So we have our logic, we have our rationality. Whenever we do get into an emotional state and we lose that emotional regulation, what happens is we flip our lid. Um, a wonderful occupational therapist taught me this. So yeah, the prefrontal cortex becomes disengaged and we run strictly off of our emotions. So in order to re-engage that prefrontal cortex, we have to start looking at our emotions a little more rational. So we want to identify and label. How are you feeling? Is it anxiety? Is it rejection? Is it abandonment? Is it frustration? You always have to label the emotion before we're able to go forward with accepting the emotion. So to accept the emotion, this is really important because it allows awareness. It allows us to be a little more compassionate with ourselves and to have a better understanding. Emotions are going to come and go, and they don't denote who you are. Emotions do not dictate character flaws. They just simply are. And we also have to look at the impermanence of emotions. So emotions are not forever. We do not want to base our actions off of an emotional state. That is where impulsivity comes into effect. We say things that we don't necessarily mean, or we do actions that we go on to later regret. So the whole saying, this too shall pass, is very true. Emotions don't last forever, and they do come and go. So in order to investigate a little bit more, we can look at what triggered the emotion, so the antecedent event. We want to figure out why this is uncomfortable for you, and is this in line with your values? Is that the cause of the emotional issue? We want to go back and look at our boundaries as well, like I talked about yesterday. And if you haven't seen that video, I definitely recommend checking it out. It has a lot of information in regards to boundaries. So yeah, we want to inquire and investigate as well. And whenever the emotion does become a little too overwhelming, we can always take a pause on it as well. Some things do take longer to work through. So we can use distraction to just take a break and come back to it. Go make your tea, do a meditation. And speaking of meditation, I will post an amazing meditation in the comments, just to help walk you through that body scan and you figure out where your emotions are and possibly why they were triggered. We also want to let go of control of emotions. We can't control our emotions all the time. So we want to kind of step outside of yourself so that we can look at them from, I guess, a more objective standpoint. So to recap, we want to accept that we have an emotion. We want to identify and label the emotion. We want to accept the emotion that we have. We want to recognize that it is impermanent and it is going to pass. And then we want to inquire, investigate, and eventually we're going to let go of that emotion. Letting go of the emotions is something that I will be chatting on later in the week. I'm not sure exactly what day right now, but I will be discussing the whole letting go process as well. So I hope this has been informative. It is something that I've worked very hard on doing. It's a hard process, and one thing I do like to remember is that anything worthwhile is never easy, and anything isn't necessarily worthwhile. So by taking this time for yourself and having that self-compassion and awareness and understanding of your emotions is going to help you become a better person, not only for yourself, but it'll help you understand the emotions of others as well. So I hope to see you again tomorrow, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please pop them in the box down there, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Peace out.